last year of his contract is up for an extension, with some wondering if this could be his last year with the star. Dak is at the mic.
At the end of the day, it's a business, and you know, when I'm gonna say it, I want to be here, but you know, when you look up, all the great quarterbacks I watched played for other teams. So my point in saying that is that's not something to fear. That may be a reality for me one day, may not be my decision. So that's the freedom that I have.
He's so hard not to root for, and I'm a Giants fan. Meanwhile, Dak's favorite target is not at practice. CeeDee Lamb, also in the market for a new contract, is holding out as training camp is underway. Jerry Jones, you worried about Lamb?
Well, I don't flare when it's happening to us. I'm aware of it. You must give me that I'm aware that we want to get these guys to camp. Business as usual, as far as I'm concerned. I'm used to this. I can live with this.
Okay. Lots going on here with America's team. Tim Hasselbeck, so happy to join this conversation. Great to have you, Tim. It's been a minute. I want to start with you on this. Do you think Jerry should be more concerned about Lamb's contract situation?
I do think he should be, because I think it should be relatively easy to get a deal done. And the fact that, you know, CeeDee's posting videos, or people around him are posting videos with him not at training camp, makes it at least feel like they're not super close to a deal happening. But because of what's happened with the wide receiver market, you just look around the league, like you can figure out what CeeDee Lamb should be getting paid, right? Like all these guys are up around this $35 million per year range. And CeeDee Lamb, because of what he's done, because of his age, because of, you know, really lack of injury history, and the fact that Dallas needs him going forward, it should be pretty obvious what he should be compensated. So, you know, I'm not saying that Jerry needs to be freaking out about it. At the same time, I do think that he should be concerned, because this one should be easily done, and it should be done at this point.
Great points. In a vacuum, I think it would be easy to get done. The thing is, I wonder what happens if you pay the wide receiver before the quarterback and then you go into the season. What does that do with the dynamic in the locker room? That could be a conversation for another day. But if you're in Jerry's position, it's an enviable position right now, because you have all the leverage in the world. CeeDee wants to get paid. He's a top talent at wide receiver. He's worth the money. The thing is, you have him under contract for this year. And if he doesn't want to play, he's not going to get paid. And he's not going to pick up that accrued season. So that's going to get him back on the field more times than not. On top of that, you do have the leverage of the franchise tag next season. So I think overall, with all the problems that Jerry's facing at the moment, in terms of trying to win games, in terms of trying to figure out whose quarterback's going to be for the future, and everything in between, the Lamb situation isn't high on the list, because it's going to get done, and he's got plenty of mechanisms at his disposal to make sure it can get done on his terms rather than Lamb's.
Yeah, that's some great points, and I look at it this way. It's not like back in the day when I played football, and the fact that players stayed on their teams for their whole career. That's not the case anymore. Think about this guy, Jerry Rice. Did you ever think Jerry Rice was not going to always be a 49er? Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, really good wide receivers. They didn't finish with the team that drafted them. This is the league we play in now. It's about money. It's about how you exercise your cap dollars. Who do you pay, right? And so I think if you're Jerry Jones, you're sitting there and you're going, where's he going to go? Football players want to play football. Where are you going to go? I own your right. See, I got you. You don't have me. And if I got to trade you somewhere, you know what? I'll do that too, because I go get another wide receiver. The key guy is the position that Timmy Hasselbeck played, quarterback. Who's your quarterback? When you get a good one, he makes all those guys around him better players.
Yeah, well, it didn't seem like Jerry Jones was too confident about his quarterback compared to what he said a little bit earlier. Tim, I want to ask you this, and I asked these guys, do you feel like Dallas, they're legit contenders this season?
I do. Listen, I think they're a really talented football team. For all the credit, or excuse me, all the criticism that Jerry Jones gets about, you know, Jerry Jones, the owner and the GM, like they've drafted good players. They have a good roster. Look, it's not a bad problem to have when you're saying like, hey, this big three of Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott, like you have to pay these guys at the top of the market because they've produced. Like that means that you've actually done a good job with guys on your roster. So, look, I think they're really talented. Do I think they're the best? Would I be picking them right now? No. I mean, because you have to look at, look, Philadelphia's good. Detroit's good. San Francisco's really good. You know, Green Bay's going to be better. All those teams. But can they be in the mix of that? Absolutely they can.
Tim, what do you attribute their lack of playoff success to? Are you putting it more on the players aren't stepping up? We discussed this earlier. Or are you putting it on the coaching, the play calling? Like, what is the deal? Why can this team not get over the hump with all the talent that they have?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Molly, you might not like the answer, but like, look, there's blame to go around. I mean, just look at the last playoff game was so bad. Like, I don't think you can put that just at one person's feet.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was a bad job by the coaching staff. It was a bad job by the quarterback. Probably a bad job by the defense. Like, I think there are a number of things in the most recent one. Now, look, I would just say this too. There's a lot of attention. We talk about them all season long. And when you get into the postseason and everyone knows that it's win or go home, there's more pressure. And so now if you're going to play in a playoff game in Dallas or for Dallas, just the pressure gets ratcheted up and how you handle the pressure. So if you're going to say, like, what has it been? Look, I think it's been that the coaching staff and the players have not responded well to the magnitude of the pressure of representing the Dallas Cowboys in the postseason.
Eagles fly. Well, they were flying high to start last season, winning 10 of their last 11 games before falling apart down the stretch, losing 6 of their final 7 games, including a 32-9 loss at the Buccaneers in the wild card round. Now, Philly's been busy since then, bringing in Vic Fangio to be the new D coordinator, adding Pro Bowl running back Saquon Barkley, and lost longtime Eagles Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox to retirement. According to ESPN Analytics, the Eagles enter the season with a 14% chance to win the NFC, 4th highest behind the 49ers, the Lions, and the Cowboys. If it happens, it would be Philly's 3rd trip to the big game in 8 seasons. Our own Dominique Foxworth had a take on the Eagles on Get Up yesterday.
I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, and I think that they should be the front runners to win the NFC next year. Their biggest issue last year was coordinators, and they've addressed that. I think they have all the tools they need as long as they can coordinate the offense and defense to an above average level. They have a talent to be the best team in the NFC.
All right, Joey Joe, try to be objective here. We know you're from Philly, back on the East Coast. You're feeling good about yourself. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC?
It's close. It's closer than it's been in a while in the NFC because we have a few teams on that top tier. I would go with the Lions. More on that in a moment. Okay. Philly's an interesting team to try to handicap because there's a lot of good. In part because of what we saw 2 years ago when they made the run to the Super Bowl. But there's a couple factors you have to remember from that season. Number 1, they had the easiest schedule in the NFL. Number 2, they were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL throughout the course of the season. They get to the playoffs. They got a playoff game against the Giants, who really got lucky to get there that season. Wasn't exactly a formidable challenge. And then played the Niners in the NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy gets knocked out. Josh Johnson steps in. Very favorable spot for Philly. They go to the Super Bowl. They perform admirably, but they come up short. So then the next year, everyone thinks Philly's going to be this big-time team, right? They're coming off a Super Bowl win. Well, they start to suffer more injuries. They lose 2 key coordinators, and they suffer serious downgrades at both those positions. And then it all starts to come unglued and unraveled, and the quarterback takes the big step back in his progress. So now we enter the 3rd year of this little sequence. Are they as bad as we saw last year? No. They solved the problem with the coordinators. The loss of Jason Kelsey is going to be huge on the offensive line. But are they as good as we saw 2 years ago? I don't think so. I think the NFC's tougher. I think the Lions continue to ascend upwards. They can beat you up in the trenches. And I love what Dan Campbell's doing with that team. I think they only learn based on what we saw them fail at last season, which is how they managed some of that game against the Niners. So it's close. It's really close. I give the edge to Detroit. Philly, not the top team right now.
All right, we're going to go.
Who you want to go?
That good?
We're going to go, Tim. No, it was just so good. We just wanted to let it breathe.
Is that good?
No, we want to let it breathe and marinate and make it a little awkward for you. You know, just have an awkward pause. We're just going to
do I walk off? Do I walk off?
No, it wasn't that good, though. Tim?
Well, I would say this. I actually agree with Joe's sentiment in terms of the Detroit Lions. I think it's a really good team with continuity. It's an ascending team with a quarterback that's playing, his best football. And I just think that there's a chemistry when you talk about the team. And I think as you relate that to the Philadelphia Eagles, Joe's right. Like, you had success, you lose 2 coordinators. Then that didn't go well. So this is the same group of players, but now the coordinators are different. So now in 2 years, you have 4 coordinators, running the offense and the defense. I think that's a significant issue. I also think you do lose locker room leadership, right? Like, Jason Kelsey's gone. I think that does matter. So it's not an outlandish statement by any stretch by Dominic Foxworth. In fact, I think there's probably a lot of people that would hold that belief. And Philadelphia has a great roster. They do have really good coaches because they have added really good coordinators. But it's got to come together as a team. And when you look at the conference is really good. The Niners are going to be an excellent team. And I think the Detroit Lions, that team that's up there. And, oh, by the way, the Green Bay Packers could be in the mix. So, look, I think it's a fair statement. It would not be my choice. And I think there are just some things that need to get ironed out in terms of the leadership and how it all comes together in Philadelphia.
Herm?
Well, look, Tim makes some great points. Look, I do believe Philadelphia will be much improved, especially offensively, with Kellen Moore getting Barkley from obviously the Giants. They let Barkley take a cab from the Giants and come down to Philadelphia, and all of a sudden he's the running back. I don't know how that could happen, but
exactly.
He'll be more involved in the passing game. They will be better versus pressure. They'll start attacking the inside of the field. Defensively, drafted 2 defensive backs. That was their Achilles heel a little bit last year on defense. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here. But I do believe, Detroit is the hot team right now. Everybody's talking about Detroit. Don't fall asleep on San Francisco. I still like San Francisco. I like how they're made. They're a team that always seems to get to the championship game 3 years in a row now. They are dealing with some history here. They lost the Super Bowl. The 71, the 71 Cowboys were the only team that repeated back. The 72 Dolphins and the 2008 Patriots were able to get back to a Super Bowl. So I think the 49ers have a lot of pressure on them. They understand how good they are. They travel well. They have one of the best running backs in the game. Their team travels well. They can go on the road and dominate the game because they run the football and they play good defense. When you do that, that's travels. We always said this in football. Defense and a good running game travels. Mm-hmm. That travels. Yep. You take that on the road. If you can take that on the road, you can win a lot of football games. The thing that these guys got to worry about with the 49ers, are they exhausted? I mean, they've been in this situation the last 3 years. Are they emotionally this takes a lot of energy to do this over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And can they sign my former player, Brandon Ayuk, which I think will get done.